this point, I've done quite a few how-to videos, and I've talked to a lot of you guys in the comments on Facebook and Instagram. I find it cool to hear from a few of you that are not mechanically inclined. Yet you still enjoy the videos with no thought on ever doing the install. There's nothing wrong with that, and I hope these videos give you guys some insight onto what's involved with the install, so you can negotiate a fair price with the person you hire to do the work. Today we're going to tinker with the vehicle wiring, make some cuts, splice some wires. So here's the disclaimer. Know your skill level. The prerequisite for this install is to have a good understanding of DC power and how the vehicle's accessory power and power ports operate. On behalf of ProClip, myself, and the random Chinese manufacturer that made my front camera, if you're unsure about this install, enjoy the video so you understand the work involved and just seek out a professional installer. I have great respect for people who know their limits. It's the people who roll up to my house with their car in pieces asking for help that I worry about. Alright, to complete this install, you're going to need a couple tools and some supplies. You're going to need a digital multimeter, Phillips head screwdriver, crimper, wire cutters, wire strippers, electrical tape, assorted spade connectors, a 1/4" drive with a 7mm socket, a 3/8 drive with a 10mm socket. This is optional, soldering iron and some solder, a tweaker screwdriver to pry off those caps in the back, some interior tools. You're going to need this is a fuse holder, assorted fuses, and a giant cup of coffee. That's it. Piece of cake. So what I want to do today is I want to show you guys how to hardwire things to the accessory and actual battery power using the power ports in the center console. Quick and easy in the trunk of the, I know about the 2015 and up Challengers, but check your manual. There is a switchable power port, which is the one right up front over here by the passenger leg. You can make that accessory or battery power. I choose to make that battery power because it runs my DashCam. So we're going to be tapping off of that today to get accessory power, and it's quite a simple process. So the first thing we're going to do is pull out my ProClip, and that's another thing too, is I just picked up the hardwired ProClip, and it's the full hardwire kit, so it gives you you hardwire it right to the accessory. So we're going to be wiring up that as well as the front camera. And I'm not going to show you the front camera install today because I haven't really finished that job yet, but what I want to do is tap power for that front camera. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to pop out the trim panel here, and I don't really use interior tools for this. We just reach in this cup holder area and pop it up. You can get your fingers underneath there very easily. And then once you get this thing hinged like this, you pull it backwards and release the clips there in the front. Underneath here, right here is a clip, and right here is a clip. If you push your fingers on both of those, another one here, another one here. Let's get this out a little bit more. All right, and then we have another one. There's two in this corner, and there's one in this, two in this corner. Now we get this, and we can turn it sideways, and we can take this out. Now I'll show you in a second, but there is a clip and a plug in here to get this out. Make sure all your clips are in and push down before you go ahead and put this away in the back seat. So this plugs into the back of the button module right here, and you just basically squeeze the clip on the bottom and pull it straight backwards. All right, so this is pretty simple to get out. You just don't need to move anything, but you have two screws right here and here. I'm gonna go grab another camera. And okay, so inside here there's two 7mm. They're also Phillips head, but they're so much easier to do with a socket tip. Okay, again, don't put these in the cup holder. This is your normal place for storing screws, because you're going to be taking this thing out and flipping it upside down, so we're not going to want to lose that. It's a little awkward doing this with the GoPro in the way. I like to keep all this stuff on the passenger floor. And as we sit here, pollen is flying into the car. It's pretty crazy. Alright, so a couple last things you got to do. Okay, so we unplug this guy, bring it down. We leave this one hanging. We unplug the USB. Again, you just push and pull. Alright, so those two are out. That's everything that needs to be disconnected here. Now we just got to go to the back and remove those. Those are 10mm bolts. By the way, when you unplug this plug here, you lose the ability to detect the key fob. So don't freak out if you want to go and do something like I just tried to close the window a little bit. Once you unplug this, the key fob isn't detected anymore. Pull that out. Okay, let's get those back screws out. Coming into the passenger side, right down there. Put this on there. We're going to take this trap door out. My recommendation is to use either a small tweaker screwdriver or a metal spudger. It has to be real thin, but really strong. There's a little dot right down here. Let's see if I can move my thumb. A little dot right down there that you can get into. Wiggle it in, get behind it, and pry it out. There we go. Alright, and inside here is a 10mm bolt. And again, placing these two parts on the front seat floorboard. I'm also using a 1/4" drive, which is kind of stupid. And I'm going to set these parts again on the front seat on the floor. Right, at this point, it's very important to have all the seats back as far as they're going to go. Now, I want you to understand too is when you remove the plugs here, your keyless entry system is going to have a few issues. It's not going to sense the keys in the car, so if you open and close the trunk, it's going to give you an alert and pop the trunk back open again. So just keep things in mind. Nothing's broken, but you're definitely going to need to just be aware of that. Now, everything is loose. You're going to want to unplug anything you have plugged into your power ports. Just make sure everything in your console, nothing's going to fall out. And push the shifter boot down so you're below the white area here, and lift and slide back. You want to be careful not to scratch your dash. You want to be careful not to rip your shifter boot. You know, it's going to be a little bit of fumbling around here. Most likely I should have taken the shifter boot off first, but hey, we're already committed, so we're just going to have to work around it. Let's see, there's some wires there getting stuck on the shifter boot. There we go. Make sure nothing else is connected, and carefully, without scratching your steering wheel or your seats, get this out of the car. All right, just to give you an overview of what we're up to, we've got the center console out and upside down on a nice clean workspace. We have, this is where your armrest is with all your stuff that your junk pocket. So this is the power, power plug that's in there. This is your battery power. So if you need to tap something, you can tap it from here for battery power, and I'll show you that in a sec. Now we go through here. This is where your shifter is, and here is the passenger side accessory port. And again, we switched this one to accessory only. So now we're going to tap off of this for our accessory line, both for our front-facing camera and our hardwired ProClip. So I'm going to put this camera in a mount and show you guys what to do next. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to strip back some of the wire wrap here. You just got to be careful, just make sure you don't cut any of the wires. I'm using super sharp wire cutters and just snipping away at it in between the wires. You only need a little bit because we're going to be cutting the power and the ground. Then I snip this off just so it's not dangling around inside there. Alright, so how do we know which one's the power and which one's the ground? Well, if you take a look at the port, the outer sleeve, that's around here, that's the ground. So we turn on our meter. Alright, so we're back with a charged battery now. So what we were talking about before is the sleeve on this is the ground, and we're always going to assume the black is the ground. I've got a continuity meter here. We're just going to set it to audio so you can hear it when we tap. And touch the sleeve, and there we go. Alright, now I've already tested this. This does connect to vehicle ground. Now the reason I want to tap off of here rather than bolt it to the chassis of the car is because I want to create something where I can disconnect this. So if I want to pull this whole thing out, I can disconnect it, and I'm going to use this wire here. So basically when we connect this back to the vehicle, this is ground, this is connected to the chassis of the car. Alright, so that's your black wire. Now we've got these two wires. One of these is the light, one of these is the center pin. So what we want to do is we want to take this end of the meter, and we're going to stick that right on the center pin inside the power port, and then we're going to tap this wire here, which is the thicker wire. So we have the pink and orange wire. It's a thicker wire. This one here is for the backlight. It's a much thinner wire. Let me zoom in so you guys can check that out. Okay, so we've got the thinner orange and gray wire and the thicker pink and orange wire. And again, if you take your meter, stick it to the center pin of the power port, and there you go. Okay, so we're going to cut these two wires. We're going to cut the power wire, and we're going to cut the ground. Now why do we cut them? I'll explain that in a second. So what I like to do, and soldering is optional. I like to solder the wires together. If you guys are not good with soldering or don't have the ability to solder, then you can twist them together really well and use a good crimp connector. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is strip these down. Gotta use the right one there. Let me back this out so you guys see what's going on. There we go. Okay, we're going to strip these down. And I'm probably going to shake the camera, so bear with me. These are much easier to strip. I think as my cutters were all jacked up. Alright, we're going to move. So the camera, to get the proper angle, is around the leg of this thing. So every time I move it, you guys fall down. Okay. So now we're going to twist the ground together, and we're going to twist the hot together. Now, for those of you who don't have a soldering iron, you can skip this step. This step is just something I've been taught to do from my old man, and I'm going to continue this trend. Okay. So the key to a good solder connection is, first of all, get your wires nice and tightly twisted together. All right, have a nice clean work area. If your wires are moving around, find something to clamp them in. I'm going to try and do this in a way where you guys can see everything. All right, so you want to get solder. You want to make sure your soldering gun or soldering iron is nice and hot and clean. So that's another important thing. So you want to get solder. Yeah, this is going to be a little awkward. Let's see if I go this way. There we go. Okay, so you're going to take your hot soldering iron. You're going to put a little solder on there. Then you're going to put that right in the middle. And you're going to let the solder flow. You're going to heat up the wire and let the solder flow onto it. There you go, right there. See how the solder just got sucked in? I'll zoom in on this one. So again, you get some solder on the tip, nice ball of it. You put that underneath. You heat up the wire, and then you just flow the solder into the wire, and you bring it off. Always clean your solder tip before you put it away, and we're done. Alright, so the next part is, because I want to make these removable, I'm going to use crimp connections on these. Alright, bring this back out again so you guys can see. All right, so I've got, these are sealed blades. So in other words, when I unplug these, the connection's protected. Put that all the way in there. I want to make sure that there is no bare wire sticking out from there. Let's zoom in again for you. No bare wire sticking out. Now my personal preference are the crimpers with the teeth. And what you wind up doing is you choose this proper size for the connector that you have, and you crimp it down hard. Then you give it a good hard tug to make sure, actually don't tug it too hard because you're going to pull it out of the connector, but just make sure that's not going to come loose. Now I also like to alternate so I'll have a blade here, and then, or sorry, I'll have the male here and the female here, so we can't accidentally plug it in the wrong way. So let me grab one of those. Okay, so again, we do a male on one end and a female on the other, just to ensure that we don't screw up and plug in the wrong one. Okay, put on the hot. Again, making sure that no wires are sticking out. And we use the teeth to crimp it down. Give it a tug, make sure that none of that's coming out. Alright, so now we have our power taps. So the circuit is still complete. You are still receiving power to your power port. There is a 20 amp fuse on this. The pieces that we are tapping, you always want to use a fuse appropriate to the device you're connecting. So if you're connecting a, let's say, all right, let's do the ProClip for example, because they actually include the fuse that you're supposed to use. ProClip gives you a fuse tap and a 2 amp fuse. We're not going to use their fuse tap, but we're going to use one that I picked up for this project. And they want a 2 amp fuse. So we've got one 2 amp fuse for that, and I'm also going to use another fuse because I'm coming through the firewall, so in case anything happens to the wire along the path, like it shorts to the ground or something like that, I'm going to have another fuse. And the camera also requires a 2 amp fuse. So far I'm using 4 amps, and then so I'm protecting 2 amp fuse here, 2 amp fuse here, and then the whole circuit is protected by a 20 amp fuse. So basically you never want to overload this circuit with more than 20 amps of, or actually you want to go 75%. So just make sure you don't hit anywhere near 20 amps. But the two little devices that we're connecting, plus the DashCam, which is 3 amps, still equal far less than 20 amps, so we're good. Why am I putting fuse holders? Because, you know, even though there's fuses here, because I'm only connecting one device to the back of this, and you know, just safety first. Basically, you want the lowest amperage fuse to the device, especially considering we're going to be running wiring to different locations of the vehicle. If anything should happen to that wire along the way, you want this quick 2 amp fuse to blow before you kind of risk doing any more damage while waiting for the 20 amp to blow. Hopefully that makes sense. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut these because they come connected together, just because that's the way they come. We are going to take 2 of these and twist them together because that's all we need is the power. And we're going to twist these 2 together, and then we're going to solder these as well. So let's make sure, just for OCD sake, that the caps are in the same direction. Make sure the wires are the same length. We don't need all this excess cable here. Back this out a little bit. No, there we go. Okay, so we've got them in the same direction. We've got the cables of the same length. And now we're just going to strip them and solder them together. Now remember what I was saying earlier, when you're soldering, make sure your work is stable. So this is a good example of using something to make your work stable, so you can actually do the soldering the right way. Make sure all your wires are twisted nice and straight so you can get them into that connector. We'll follow the same process we did before. Alright, so we put a little bit of solder on the tip and put a nice ball on there. Start in the middle, let it warm up, and the solder will eventually start to melt on top. And if it doesn't, give it a little bit more. There we go. Okay, and then I usually slide the bottom off so I don't leave a big glob down there at the bottom. And again, once you're done, clean your tip. Make sure everything is good. We don't need all that excess in the front, so we're going to cut off that head. And now we are ready for the connector. So we put a female connector here, so we're going to grab a male connector. All right, we're going to insert that into the end there. Again, making sure that there are no bare wires sticking out. And we're going to crimp that down. Let's see if we can pull this out. Nope, doesn't budge. Now we have our positive connection. Just drop that right inside there, and good to go. All right, so this end, so we're going to put our two 2-amp fuses in here and seal those up because we know we're ready to use those. Got 2 amps right there. And they pack these in there. There's 10 of them in each slot. It's like no room to manipulate them out. There we go. If you're looking for this, I'll drop a link in the description. It was like less than 10 bucks for like a billion fuses. These things as well, I'll drop a link in the description for those. Pretty much everything's on Amazon. What isn't on Amazon these days? Ooh, I just bent the crap out of that fuse. There we go. And seal that up. The cool thing about these fuse holders, I mean, even though we're using them in the vehicle, they're waterproof, so you can use them outside the vehicle as well. All right, so we're pretty much done with the wiring. All we need to do, just remember we have this tap here. We're gonna use our female end, and we're gonna join our grounds together and put them in there. And that's it. Now, if you wanna run, so this is accessory power. If you wanna run battery power to something, you follow this exact same process all the way over here on the one that's in your junk container here, so underneath the armrest. So this is your battery powered one, and this is your accessory powered one. And this one again is switchable at the fuse box in the trunk for the 2015 and up Challenger, most likely for the older ones as well. We're gonna have to do this in 2 different parts because I have the hardwire kit for the ProClip free, and then I have the wires, part of the AV kit for my taser are still, they're hardwired in the car. So unfortunately I need to do this in 2 parts, so I'm going to tap this one here, and then I'm going to tap the other one when we get in the car. And in both instances I'm going to put the ground together and just plug it in when we get in the vehicle. With the ProClip, I don't need all this extra cable, so what I'm going to do, they give you a ton of cable, by the way. I think you have, what are we looking at? I don't know exactly for sure, but we're talking about maybe 8 or 9 feet of cable here. So I don't need all that. What I do need is I need enough to get out of the console area so I can put this plug somewhere much easier to get to. So I'm going to give myself about 18 inches. Alright, so I snipped this cable a little bit, and then I just peeled the wires out. I don't like spinning around down here because you risk a chance of nicking the wire. So if you just snip your way through and then just simply peel the wire out, you're good to go. Cut off the excess. So now that we've got the 2 fuses all set, these are both 2 amp fuses, so we can use either one of them for what we're working with. So here I have the ProClip ready to roll. And again, you want to make sure you alternate connectors. So we have the ground here, which is the male. So we're going to put the female on the ground here, and we're going to crimp that in place. Now my cameras do not have a ground. We're grounding those to chassis right next to where we mount the camera. So we don't need to have a ground for the camera, but we do need to have a ground for the ProClip. Again, once you crimp, always test your crimp connections, and we just make the connection. Nice and sealed. There's no exposed wire here or back there. The next one would be the power connection. We're going to go ahead and strip that wire back. Now, of course, we want to make sure we don't make an error, so we put a female connector on here. We're going to put a male connector on this side. In this way, we can never accidentally reverse the connections. Give it a little extra meat to crimp onto. Make sure there's no exposed wires. Give it a crimp. And we're good. Get the female on the other end. This looks like it's a little bit too long, so we're going to snip off a little bit. There we go. Get that all the way in there. We have a nice successful connection for the ProClip, and we can, once we get inside the car, we're going to figure out wire management for that. Now we want to make sure that we don't stress these wires out, so I like to actually bundle wires together to prevent them from coming undone. Now just make sure when you bundle them all together that you're bundling wires together that you're going to be able to unplug and take with you. Nice little band of electrical tape around there. Okay, there we go. Alright, so now we have our ProClip completely hardwired, and now we have our power tap for the camera, and the camera is inside the car, so unfortunately we're going to finish this job inside the vehicle. But let's just see, we put a female tap on the power, so we're going to put another female tap on this power. This way we have matching taps on all of our power connections. Maybe this time we won't cut so much wire off there. Again, make sure that insulator is nice and deep in there and there's no exposed wire sticking out. Give it a nice crimp and give it a tug. So we are pretty much 99% prepared to throw this right back in the car. Let's do a quick review. We've got a 20 amp fuse feeding this. We have a 2 amp fuse for our camera, and it's already tapped there. We've got a 2 amp fuse that comes with the ProClip hardwire kit. It's just, you plug in the USB and it locks it in place with that cool mechanism there. And this will now charge my iPhone. By the way, I switched to an iPhone because I got sick of my Samsung dying halfway through the day every day. Now all that's left to do is let's get these wires neatly tucked away. I want to see where they're going to fit best once I get this back in the car loosely. So we'll go get back in the car and we'll figure that part out. Yeah, we'll do the same process in reverse. Get in the car. Bring it into the back seat, up and over the steering wheel carefully. Now we're going to bring our wires around and off to the passenger side. I'm going to come in at an angle. I'll bring the shifter boot all the way down and turn it sideways so we can get past it. Okay, so now that we got it down, I want to take a look at where we can route our wiring. And this, unfortunately, you can't see, but if you slide it back, maybe you can see. See this metal brace right here? You're going to want to put all your wiring behind that metal brace. The first thing we want to do is we want to connect my camera. So I have the camera wiring right here. We want to put the plug on that and connect it, but it's actually right here. So all I need to do is get the male end, crimp that on, and we're good to go. You guys are pretty good with crimping at this point, so my big head's going to be blocking you, but you've already seen this happen like 6 times, so you know what's going down. So the front camera that I purchased came with a cable, and this cable has a positive wire on it. So when you run it to where you're running it to, you can tap power there, and then when you get it out to wherever your destination is, in my case it's the front of the vehicle, when you get it out to there, you go ahead and tap ground at that location. So done, nice and tight. Plug in my spade connector. Actually, let's make sure our wire routing direction is correct first. Let's get all of our wire management done. So we're down here. All this is going to slide in over here and over here. There's a nice safe place here. This is nice and smooth metal, and I want to route all my wiring through that area and out the back here. By the way, we connect the camera. There we go. And again, the camera is a whole nother video on how to pass through the firewall, and actually where my final mounting place for the front mounted camera. Look for that in a couple weeks. I'm still working out a mount for it. I want it to be inconspicuous, but I still want to see my front chin spoiler. Now this is a nice spot to tuck all the wires up into. You don't see it. Looks good. Here's my ProClip plug, which we'll utilize in a little bit. We'll tuck all the wires right into this nice area between the air vent and the metal brace here. To get these up and over. Start sliding this back a little bit. There we go. And that's completely out of the way. Okay. Now we're all back together again. All we need to do is worry about our screws. Let's bring you guys back up topside. Now it's always a good idea before you pull, before you screw everything back together, to run a couple tests. So that being said, let's reconnect things. We're going to reconnect the harness, which comically got stuck behind when we pushed everything in. Let's get that pulled out here. That's one thing I forgot to mention. You just want to make sure your wiring harnesses are pulled out so you can plug them in before you push everything back. Alright, so just a quick reminder too, whenever you unplug this harness, it no longer detects the key properly. I'm going to say this over and over again. Your trunk will not close if you unplug this, and your car will not start if you unplug this. It'll just keep saying does not detect key fob. Alright, put that right back on there. Plug this back in. Connect that back together. There we go. All that's left is this plug, which winds up going into the panel that goes here. Alright, so how do we test? Let's get a makeshift mount. Let's see what you guys can see. So we got my ProClip right here. I'm not going to put it in yet. I'm just going to stick it right here for now. We're going to plug in their awesome plug here. I like how that locks in place so it doesn't come out. Alright. Where's my phone? So if we did this correctly, when I hit the accessory button, my phone will go charging. Look at that. Perfect. Looks like we have a successful install, people. Let's go put this thing back together again. Alright, we're going to go hop in the back. Actually, you don't even need to see that. It's two 10mm bolts. I'll just put that in the upper corner while I'm doing this. Just want to take a peek under the skirt there. Take a look at that Barton. That thing is ridiculous. Such a different shifter. If you haven't checked it out already, check out my install video on the Barton. I got a review coming up. I was waiting until I got a chance to go to the drag strip and see if this actually fixed my problems from 3rd to 4th. Happy to mention that it did, but let's get back on our regularly scheduled program here. Time to put this all back together again. Alright, so we got those two back bolts put in. Let's put the panel back together. Remember, we still need to plug this guy into the back of the panel. So you want to get it in place, reach around the back, plug it in, and also remember, you want to hinge this, so let's get the shifter boot out of the way. Okay, these two go in first. 1, 2. Then you fold it down and snap the rest of it in. Once that's all down, come over here and you get that shifter boot back together again. Just give me a sec to make it look pretty. Oh, you know what too? Maybe I should just do a quick wipe in the seam here. Don't have that off too often, so gotta clean while you can, right? There we go. Make sure that's pressed down. Remember, there's 2 in every corner. Alright. And let's snap the ProClip back in place. I find it funny that I actually was able to make like a 5-minute install video from this. There we go. Or actually a longer than 5-minute install video to install the ProClip when you just saw what happened right there. Now we got this wire, which I'm going to bring up and tuck into the seam over here. I'll grab an interior tool and push that in. Hey, you're already here paying attention, so why not watch? Get that in there real good. Probably should have done this before I bolted it in place. That would have been the smart thing to do. Put that in there nice and deep. There we go. Put my ProClip back into position here. There we go. Push the tape down. Alright, I think we're good. Now I just got to neaten up these wires. And again, like I said, camera video will be coming soon. Okay, the last thing we got to do is we've got these bare wires on the end of the cameras. So I'm just going to drop a butt connector on the end of those to seal them off for now. To make sure they're not shorting around while they're hanging out my glove box waiting to complete the installation. Alright. Okay, so these 2 sets of wires get tucked away in the glove box until I'm ready to install them. I like to bring them down and up into the glove box so you don't see them that well. Okay. We have my DashCam wire. Okay, so my DashCam wire I plug in. Actually, I turn it this way so the cable's not sticking out. Okay. Leave myself a little bit of slack so I can basically unplug it if I need to, which really never happens. Okay, that's nice and in there. Should have hardwired the DashCam while I was in there. Didn't even think of that. Now we've got this little dongle thingy for the ProClip. I think I probably left a little bit too much wire on here. Maybe 6 or 7 inches would have been more sufficient, but too late now. And there's a nice pocket back here for wiring. You have plenty of space to insert all of your extra wiring for easy access later on. Alright, and let's hide away that cable there. And we are done, nice and clean. So now we have a hardwired camera. We have absolutely no worries because we've installed a 2 amp fuse on each. So we have adequate power to power the devices, but we don't have the fuse overrated, so as soon as something goes wrong, that fuse is going to pop quickly without working its way back through the circuit to get to that big 20 amp fuse and doing damage along the way. And now we test to see if it works. If all is good, the phone should start charging when we start the car. go. We're charging.
Excellent.